All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here with us today on a Friday afternoon. I've got several updates, and our principals are here with us as well to answer any questions we might have. We'll jump right in. First, some good news about free meals. So the New Hampshire Department of Child Nutrition has approved our request for an area eligibility waiver, which authorizes our school district to offer free breakfast and free lunch for all students through December 31st of this year. Regardless of whether you're free or reduced or paid, everybody gets a free meal through the end of the year. In addition to that, it is retroactive back to the start of the school year. Everyone who's paid for a meal, if it was a complete meal, will get that reimbursed for you. So if you review your My School Bucks accounts, be aware that the reversal of prior transactions will take some time, and no low balance notifications will be sent until finalized. We should also note that a la carte purchases are not covered, just full meals. Also, beginning the evening of Sunday, October 18th, the daily student lunch selection survey will be available at 5 p.m. the day prior to school. So please continue to use that survey if your student needs a lunch for the following day. Nice job, John Lash, with that. Great job. I failed to mention, but feel free to use the Q&A function on the bottom if you have questions, and we'll do our best to answer those for you. In Sauhegan, Dave Chen, who's been a longtime board member, has resigned his seat on the Sauhegan board. He's moved out of state, and as a result, we have an opening through March. And so if you're interested in applying for that opening, please send an email to Abby Wallace at awallace@sau39.org, or see our website and we can give you more information about that. The way it works is the 4 remaining Amherst representatives to the Sauhegan board will be tasked with picking who will fill that seat through March. And then in March, voters will elect someone to fill that role. A couple other quick things here. First, there's a message about Sauhegan parent-teacher conferences on November 4th. Open house is October 20th, and look for more information from Sauhegan about both of those things. Next, I want to spend some time talking about the community survey that we did over the past week. Thank you to all of those who responded to that survey and provided us with your answers to that survey. There were 1,650 responses to that survey, which is a lot of answers. We appreciated it very much, and we'll be reviewing all of that information over the next couple of days and weeks. But I wanted to share some of that information with you. So here on my screen, you can see the answer to the question, what are your holiday travel plans in November and December? And of those 1,650 responses, about 15% said that they do plan to travel outside of New England at least once during November and December. That number is not evenly distributed between students and staff. So it was about 26% of our staff responded they were going to travel outside of New England, and about 13% of students said that they were going to. In addition to that, about 58% of our faculty and staff said they plan on getting together with family and friends over the holidays outside of their immediate family, and about 26% plan on only getting together with those inside their immediate family. And so we've received that information. We also are aware that many colleges will be having students come home over that holiday break from Thanksgiving through January. And we know that's another factor in all of this. In addition, we realize that case counts of COVID-19 in our state have been increasing over the last couple of weeks. We monitor that very closely, as you know, and we've been seeing that uptick happen both in terms of case count, but also the positivity rate in cities like Manchester and Nashua. And so because of that, we're making preparations for what could result in a change of our status from yellow to something more restrictive like our orange or red status. If you don't recall, orange means that we limit the number of students in the building at one time beyond where we have right now. In some cases, 70 to 80% of our students are in the building, and we would limit that significantly from that number in an orange status, which would result in a rotation of students through our buildings. A red status means that schools are closed, that we're back to the way we were in the spring, and maybe a few students who have special needs would access our buildings, but in general, schools are completely closed in a red status. So because of this information that we see and the fact that we want to be prudent with our planning, we are looking ahead and making preparations for what is a likelihood that at some point in the future, we may have to go into an orange or red status. There are no plans to do that as of this moment. As of right now, we have one active case we're aware of in our schools, one. That's a very good thing. I think it reflects on the work all of you are doing as parents and not sending sick kids to school. I think it reflects on our teachers who are ensuring that our safety protocols are followed and that we're doing everything we can with the structure of our reopening plan to make sure that people remain safe. But we know that the likelihood exists that those numbers will go up in our school community. So I want to make you aware of the plans that we have in place and the things that we're doing to prepare for any eventuality of that. First, I am pulling back together our reopening task force. Our reopening task force met over the summer and deserves all of the credit for designing our reopening plan that thus far has served us fairly well. And so I'm asking those folks to get back together and begin the process of reviewing data and making recommendations to add all the information we've learned over the last couple of months and apply that to our decision making about our future statuses, our future status levels over future segments. And so next Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, 4 p.m., the reopening task force will reconvene. It will be a public meeting like it was over the summer, held over Zoom, streamed on Facebook. Any member of the public is welcome to join. We will have our subcommittees meet at least one time to gather additional feedback from all of those stakeholder groups, and we will collate that data and use it to inform our decision making. So that's step one. Also, our administrators have begun the process of refining our orange and red plans. Now, we focused primarily on what our yellow status would look like, as that was what we anticipated starting our school year in that status. And so we're putting additional time and resources into planning for what orange and or red may look like. And so that process has begun, and we'll make all of those plans available once they're ready and once they've gone through the process of being reviewed by the reopening task force. And so that work is in progress. What I need you folks to do as members of our school community is to prepare yourselves for what may be our reality, that we may need to change from a yellow status to an orange or a red. Again, I repeat, there are no plans to do that immediately, but the reality is we could have to make that pivot fairly quickly. For example, if we found out of an outbreak in one of our schools, that might lead to us making a change rather quickly in our status. We would give fair warning and do the best we could to make sure there was ample time to make preparations for our families. But if there's an outbreak in a school, we're not going to have school that next day. We just know that. We know that to be the case. And so as our school community, I need you to think about what it would mean for your family if we had to have school on a less than full-time basis, or if school had to result in being closed once again. I hope that's not going to happen, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure it doesn't happen, but we need to be prepared for that possibility and even that likelihood over and around the holidays. Something else we're doing is we're asking our faculty and staff to understand their travel plans if they're going outside of New England for the purposes of planning what that might mean to our school plans, because we know that our faculty availability is obviously a very key component to our schools being able to run the way they are. So we're doing all of those things. Again, just to reiterate, no immediate plans to make a change right now. There is no local data to suggest that we need to do that, but looking ahead to both segment 5, which is between Thanksgiving and the end of year holidays, and segment 6, which is basically the month of January, I think that there is a good chance that our status level could change for one or both of those status levels, depending on conditions in our area depending on faculty availability and just the other information that we track that helps us make that decision. So today I wanted to give you fair warning about that, let you know what we're doing to be prepared for that and what you can do to be involved in that decision-making process through participation in the reopening task force. So that's all of that information. And thank you for those of you who provided feedback in that survey. The survey data had literally thousands of answers that provided feedback for us, positive, negative, and otherwise, about what we're doing well, what we're not doing well, what could improve, and just other information and advice. And I understand from reading through much of that information that people feel strongly about all of this. There are some people who are desperate to make sure that our schools remain open for various reasons. And there are others who feel like it's time to make a pretty significant change. And I understand those reasons as well. And so just know we're hearing all of that. And as always, we're going to rely on the science data. We're going to rely on the advice of the CDC and the state of New Hampshire. And we're going to rely on our local experts and people that have guided us thus far to help make the best decision we can. So that is that. One last COVID-related piece of information. You've all done a great job in letting us know when there's an issue, when there's a concern, when there's a problem related to COVID-19 in your family or with your student. However, we can do a better job at receiving that information in more of an informed way and an organized way. And so for that reason, we've set up a special email address. It is COVID alerts at SAU39.org. That email address is going to be sent out later today at 5 with an update that has all of this information I've talked about in it. It's going to be posted on our website. I think it has already actually. And that email address is live right as of this moment. So if you as a parent or even a staff member have a concern about COVID-19 for yourself or for your student, if they're being tested, if you're being tested, if your child is being tested or you've gotten test results, anything to do with that, we ask that you email and notify us through that COVID alerts at SAU39.org email address. That email address goes to all the right people in our school system to make sure that everybody who needs to know finds out quickly and immediately. Some of you have done what most of us as parents would do. You reach out to the person that you know, whether it's a coach or a teacher or even a building principal, to let them know, hey, this is what's going on in my family. And while we appreciate those relationships that you have, the difficulty is because of that being an inconsistent pathway for information, it hasn't gotten to all of the right people quickly enough in some situations. And we want to make sure that the right people find out right away when there's an issue with anything to deal with COVID-19 cases. So anything to deal with COVID-19, please email us, COVID alerts at SAU39.org. And so with that, those are all of my updates. Be happy to take any questions that folks might have in the Q&A. I see one right now. If you make a status change, how much lead time do you think you would give us? So great question. So in an ideal world, I would be able to say right now what we're going to do for segment 5, which is a number of weeks away. And if the data gave us that much lead time, then I would tell you with as much lead time as I possibly could what those plans are. Or in status 5 or status 6, if we have a restriction in the number of staff that are available to us, we would let you know those plans right away and let you know about that change right away. And so, in other words, I'll tell you as soon as I possibly can. However, if there's a case-related issue that results in a status change, it might be a week. It might even be a few days less than a week in terms of lead time that I can provide you. So I'll play out a couple of scenarios. If there was a major outbreak that I found out about tonight, we would not have school on Monday in person. If that was the right thing to do, we wouldn't have school on Monday in person. We would confer with DHHS at the state level. We would rely on our nurses and our other experts, and we'd make a good decision about what we need to do with school. If that results in a closure or a change in status for a whole segment or for a period of time, we would let you know that. And if we need lead time to make those changes happen, we simply wouldn't have school for a couple of days to get those plans in place and to make sure we can do it well. So in other words, we're not going to rush through a status change we're going to do it the right way and make sure we have the availability to do that. Now, I will tell you that I'm asking our principals to have their plans ready so that if we had to make a change quickly and that we could do that. But as always, we're going to try to let the community know and with as much time in advance as possible and give you a chance to prepare for that to the best we can. So I hope that makes sense. Can you restate the lunch update you gave? Yes. Every student, K-12, whether they're free, reduced, or paid, everybody gets free lunch and free breakfast in all of our schools. And that's through December 31st, and it's retroactive to the start of school. And so there will be refunds applied to the My School Bucks accounts over the coming weeks for you. So that's a great thing. You do have to take a complete meal, meaning it's not for a la carte items. You have to take the whole meal in order to have it be paid for, and that's covered by the federal government, not by local taxes. Who's managing that alert email address? School nurses. Just wondering about HIPAA. Great question. So that COVID alerts at SAU39.org goes to the team that's been dealing with all cases that come in. That team is all of the school nurses and me. So all of the school nurses and I are in, we have a private communication system that we employ, and we use that to track cases, to be on top of cases, and to make sure that the right people have the right information about those cases. We don't share it any wider than that. Our building principals don't have access to that information. No one else does. I have, because I need to use that information to obviously make decisions, and our school nurses have it as well. And so we track it all very carefully, and it is very much protected. So good question about that. I don't see any other questions. Principals, did I miss anything? Anything that we didn't cover that we should go over?
Just one more in the chat about will we provide laptops or IT equipment if we go remote?
Got it. So the answer is, to the best of our ability, we will. So we are still short on laptop equipment from the beginning of the year, based on really what was a global shortage. And so we don't have the availability to buy all of the laptops we need to get, but we're working on it. We're even putting orders in even as we speak this week, and we're doing the best we can. So we'll do our best to provide laptops to students as we have this past spring. Good question. All right. Well, with that, I thank everyone for your participation. You will receive an email at 5 o'clock through our Nixle system that will have all of this information in it and more. There's a link to a great video that was done by WMUR about one of our students at Sauhegan. And there's some other information like that included as well. But I very much appreciate you all taking the time on a Friday afternoon to join us, and we hope you have a wonderful weekend. Take care.